When my sister, Annie, was 18 and I was 21, she got pregnant and had a daughter, Sophie. She developed what we believe was postpartum depression, but was never diagnosed as she refused therapy. When Annie's school started up again, our mother took on all childcare of Sophie. As Mum took on more childcare, Annie seemed more like her old self, happy, outgoing, generally mentally healthy. Then within 6 months of Sophie's birth, Annie got pregnant again with another girl, Laura, and the cycle of paranoid personality disorder symptoms, Mum taking over, and Annie's mood improving repeated. When Laura was 2 and Sophie was 3, Annie decided to move out of our parents' home alone and said she wanted our parents to adopt and raise her daughters. They said no. Annie said she couldn't take care of the girls as she had her own life, and being a parent made her miserable. My husband and I already had 4 kids of our own. We'd bonded with the girls, and we had the resources for 2 more, so we offered to take them in, and Annie let us legally adopt them before moving about 8 hours away. It's been about 5 years, and the kids are doing well. It was a rough start, but we're now a stable, loving, healthy family unit. Sophie and Laura are 7 and 8, and Annie has recently lost her job and had to move back in with our parents. Annie has now asked for custody of Sophie and Laura. I'm writing custody like that because it wouldn't be custody in the legal sense, as she willingly surrendered all legal rights to the girls and can't get them back. We checked with a lawyer. However, Annie wants the girls to live with her. Initially she said she wanted them full-time and to legally adopt them back from us, which we obviously refused. Then she offered a compromise of alternate weeks, so half of the custody. Again, we refused. Given her insistence, we don't even want her around Sophie and Laura, so we've not been going by my parents' house as we typically do. It's been a month of constant badgering, insisting we let Annie bond with her daughters and allow her to at the very least take them for overnight visits, saying that Annie had paranoid personality disorder 5 years ago and now she's ready to be a parent. I've responded that we are not babysitters, we are Sophie and Laura's parents. They're in a good place, and this will be detrimental to all 6 kids, and Annie doesn't get to step in now when she never stepped up in the first place. The response from my parents and Annie is that I'm being unsympathetic to her disorder, and I should let her at least have a chance, rather than deem her unfit without giving her a chance to prove herself. Plus, given that we already have 4 kids other than them, Sophie and Laura could probably do with a smaller household, and saying we're being unreasonable for not allowing Annie to bond with her kids. Not the idiot. Please stand your ground. You have provided those 2 little girls with a stable, loving family for the last 5 years. You are genuinely the only true mom and dad they've ever experienced, and it is so unfair of your sister and parents to expect you to relinquish custody of your daughters whom you have raised without any support or help from Annie. Even with paranoid personality disorder, had Annie adopted the children outside of your family, not only would she have absolutely zero custodial rights to them, but she wouldn't even know them whatsoever. Being a parent is not something to get to be wishy-washy about. Not the idiot. She gave up her rights. She wasn't interested at all for 5 years. Doesn't seem like she was much interested before that. It would be a terrible thing for the kids to be uprooted from their home environment and their siblings again, particularly with the chance that Annie will rediscover that having children requires time and effort, and that being a parent makes her miserable all over again. You are doing the right thing to protect your kids from your flaky sister. Your parents also don't get a say. They enabled Annie and declined to keep the girls themselves. They need to keep their opinions to themselves. That kind of back and forth does not sound like a good idea. So wait, she lost her job and had to move back in with her parents, but she thinks now she should be allowed to raise these kids? How the heck would that work? She's in no better a position now to raise them than she was 5 years ago, and you can't just give up your kids until it's convenient for you to raise them again. Sure, let her have a relationship with them, eventually, assuming she calms down about wanting them back, and she's able to fill a more aunt-like role, but these kids are a part of a family now, and it's not fair to anyone to remove them from that, especially the girls. What are your parents even thinking supporting this? Idiots. And you are obviously not the idiot. I, 17, live with my father and stepmother. My mother died 5 years ago. The holidays are always kinda rough, but I really hate Christmas because I spend it watching my stepmother and father spoil out of her kids, 20 and 22, and I get nothing. I know no one is owed a gift, but they demand my presence and I don't particularly enjoy watching my stepbrothers get multiple gifts while I sit there watching, and that's a hard pill to swallow at 12. My dad just shrugs it off because, well, she does the shopping. This year I bought myself a few things I wanted over time. My stepmother saw me wrapping some gifts and asked who they were for. I said myself, so I could have some gifts on Christmas this year too. Well, apparently that made her feel bad, and she complained to my dad that I was being rude and ungrateful for everything she's done by doing this. My dad asked why I was upsetting my stepmother. I said if she's upset it's only because she knows it's crappy that she buys for her kids, knowing you won't shop for me and purposely excludes me, and now she's complaining that I've done something for myself, and it makes her look bad. He said I hurt her feelings, and I got irritated and asked why I should care. She certainly doesn't care about hurting my feelings. My dad said I was being a brat, and I said he was being a bad father by allowing this to continue for all these years, knowing how I felt about it. We aren't speaking currently. My grandmother says I didn't do anything wrong, and that what I said was true, but I feel bad for upsetting them. So, am I the idiot? Your dad is just plain awful. Yes, your stepmother isn't being kind by spoiling her kids and making you watch, but your dad is totally fine with this and apparently more worried that you'll upset her if you complain. It's his job to protect you and care for you, and it's no excuse that he isn't the one that does the shopping. Not the idiot. Be direct with your dad and say, Dad, it doesn't matter who does the shopping. You're my dad, and you're sitting by watching this happens. You know it hurts me. It's your job to make this right, not my job to swallow it. Because what he does, not actually about caring for you properly. Not the idiot. Your parents are such giant jerks. But your grandmother is absolutely right. You shouldn't feel bad at all for what you said. Well done for standing up for yourself. Your dad is being a terrible father. He should either insist your stepmother buys all the kids in the household gifts, or he should buy you something himself. Your stepmother is being a terrible person for not getting you anything. That's awful behavior from them both. You deserve to be around people who behave in ways consistent with caring about you, especially for the holidays. I'm really sorry. I hope you can get away from them soon. Not the idiot. Stepmother failed you every Christmas and your dad didn't even try. Good on you for looking after yourself this year. Goodness knows, someone has to. You did the right thing for calling them out finally. It's just a pity you didn't do it the very first time it happened. I fully understand you might not have felt comfortable making a scene, and as you say yourself, you've never felt entitled to a gift. Let your dad stew in the silent treatment. It's not resentment, it's guilt. They only feel bad because they acted bad, and it's about time they recognize it. You don't need to continue to allow them to treat you like this in the future. My girlfriend and I are going through a rough patch at the moment. A while back, my girlfriend's friend paid off her student loans and decided to celebrate by taking 1 month of loan payments worth of money and treating some friends out to dinner. There were 6 of us, including her. The most important thing to understand here is that when we all sat down, she told us the money was specifically set aside for this dinner, so please order whatever we wanted. She also ordered several appetizers for the table and said she would pay for up to 2 alcoholic drinks per person. The restaurant was a mid-range steakhouse. When it got to me, I ordered the ribeye, which was not the most expensive item on the menu. From previous conversations with my girlfriend, I knew that the friend's monthly loan payment was $500, so she had that amount set aside for the dinner. 500 divided into 6 people are 83, so with 6 people, so everyone could spend up to $83 without going over the amount set aside for dinner. I did some quick mental math on what everyone had ordered, and we were still well below that threshold, so I felt comfortable adding a lobster tail to my meal. My entrees did not exceed $83. No one said anything about it, but my girlfriend lit into me when we got home and said I embarrassed her and that I took advantage of her friend. I told her that her friend had said to get whatever we wanted, and I explained to her that the math worked out, so it was okay. My girlfriend's argument is that get whatever you want doesn't mean a second entree, and that I should have gotten the surf and turf if I wanted lobster. My belief is that get whatever you want means exactly that I did my due diligence in making sure the cost wouldn't go over the amount she had set aside, and that the friend had set aside that money specifically for the dinner, so she wasn't expecting to have any of it left. Am I the idiot? This issue has been a thorn in my side for a long time. You are the idiot. This was your girlfriend's friend, not yours, so if I were you, I would have been slightly reluctant to assume she'd want to be as generous to me as she would with her friends. I would see myself as more of a courtesy invite. And just because she said she'd put the money aside, doesn't mean you had to aim for the maximum allowed amount. If one of my friends was treating me to dinner, even if they said they had a large budget, I still wouldn't want to spend that much. So by my metric, either you were an inconsiderate +1, or an inconsiderate friend who took as much as they thought they could get. You are the idiot because you abused a person's generosity. If you really needed a lobster tail, you should have offered to pay for that separately and left the rest of the bill to be settled by the friend. Ordering considerably more than anybody else is stupid behavior unless you offer to make up the difference yourself. Others ordering less does not mean that you can order more without looking like an idiot. Just because the friend had a budget doesn't mean you have to ensure it is all used. Moderation is a virtue. You just look super greedy, and your explanation of your maths based on what your girlfriend had mentioned previously really doesn't help. You are the idiot. You actually seem to realize this since you recognized there was a budget involved and that she'd only cover 2 drinks, so I'm not sure why you try to push this disingenuous line of argument. The disagreement hence comes down to whether you did or didn't conform to reasonable expectations of etiquette. If the host was your friend, you could more reasonably make the case that you know what they could afford and were fine with paying, but this is crucially not the case. Then, when your girlfriend informs you that you violated the social expectations of her friend group, you disregard her assessment. You're in the wrong. My sister has never put much thought into how she's going to afford to be alive. She doesn't have ambition. Ever since she was little, when asked what she wants to be, she jokingly answered that her plan is to be a stay-at-home mom. She's still saying it, but now she isn't joking. She doesn't even have that much experience with kids. She's never babysat. Recently she's been telling family members she's going to nursing school, which is amazing. I wanted to talk to about it and praise her. I visited home last weekend, she still lives with my parents, and asked her what her plans are, in a sisterly way, not in a this is a setup to lecture you way. She said she's been lying to the family and that she plans to keep working her minimum wage job until she meets a man she wants to settle down with. From there the conversation went like this. Me, irritated. There are no Prince Charming in real life, Rosie. Rosie, irritates. Yay, I know I'm not looking for a Prince Charming. I want to find a man to raise up. Me. But you are. You want someone to come take over your life because you don't have the motivation to do better on your own. If your whole life's goal is to find a man to love you, it's going to push you into the arms of the wrong kind of man. Also, how are you gonna raise up a man if you can't even raise yourself up? Do you want to be like mom? Rosie, no. I'm not going to be like mom. I'm going to do it better. I saw what she did, and now I can do better. Me, well, do better, but improving yourself before you get knocked up. You don't remember, but from 8 until 13 I watched you and brother every night while mom partied until 3 because she got pregnant too early, didn't have time for herself, and resented us. That's going to be you. My sister was crying at this point, said screw you, and left. My dad overheard and said I was too rough, and she didn't need to hear all that. I think I was justified. Sometimes you have to be mean to get things through a person's head. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. Not because of what you said, but because of how you delivered it. There are better ways of encouraging someone than bringing them or their ideas down. I think you just need to tailor your approach so that she's more receptive in the future. Also, as a side note, I know a couple of women who grew up with the exact same vision. They both went to college for family studies or something along those lines. Met husbands a few years after graduating, had kids, and went straight to the housewife gig. It really is what some people dream of doing, and maybe it's not as bad as you make it out to be in your mind. They're both doing great. I was a stay-at-home mom for several years, and to be honest, it wasn't anything I planned for or even thought possible. I got lucky in that my family situation made this possible, and I considered it a privilege. That said, luckily I worked before and after, so when I got divorced I was able to work my way back up, but I'm several pay grades below a number of my contemporaries, and it's been a struggle to even get back as far as I have. Making a stay-at-home mom your entire life plan, unless you happen to bring your own wealth, is so stupid that I question your sister's abilities in life. I doubt there's anything further you can say either. This is unfortunately one of those times when life will have to teach her the lessons she needs. No idiots here. There is nothing wrong with being a stay-at-home mom, but it screws to depend on another person for your survival. My mother doesn't have a career, except for a few part-time jobs here and there to get out of the house. My father works and takes care of the bills. He makes enough money to support the family, and my mother raised my sister and I, and maintained a home. They have been married for close to 50 years. However, I don't think that she is happy anymore. She stays in the marriage to maintain the lifestyle she is accustomed to because she cannot support herself. I think it comes down to the fact that not being able to take care of yourself in life is a bad decision.